So I'm going to speak about three types of real estate: residential, offices, and retail. By retail, I mean shopping malls. Uh, I would encourage that we have an interactive session, so feel free to ask questions and share views towards the end. I will like to keep my part of sharing my views as short as possible so that you can ask as many questions that permits within an hour. And I find it more challenging as well as interesting in answering the questions rather than keep on telling you all what I feel about the market. Thanks, Samir. Once again, I'll begin by sharing my observations about what's happening in the residential real estate market first, because that is something that all of us are closely with. We all have, it could be a family house, but a home is always close to everybody's heart, and that's what is covered in the residential sector. 8-10 observations that we have seen with the COVID pandemic engulfing the entire world. What we have seen is a rise in need for that little bit extra room, half a room, so to speak. It has been work from home for you. For students, it has been learning from home. Everybody is at home for such a long and continuous period, and still we have to work. The need of that little bit of additional space is very severely kind of felt. We are having developers now around 2-3 BHK kind of configurations. We are now also having 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 kind of apartments. That half bedroom could be converted into a study or a makeshift office, which allows ability to concentrate, that much of privacy, sound quality when one is doing so many webinars and video calls during the day. If that half a bedroom is not possible, then developers and interior designers are modifying the existing house or existing design to carve out some corners, a little bit of space, desk space, so that people can work from home in a better way. So that's first major change we have seen. Second change we have seen is growing demand for plotted developments. So in big cities like Mumbai or Pune, it's apartments that dominate the scene. But there are so many other cities where plotted development, independent houses, row houses, they are still there, quite popular, and that popularity is growing because plotted developments allow a kind of secluded environment. It naturally maintains a certain distance from the adjoining plot and a house, so people find it more comforting and more secure. So plotted developments have started getting more popularity. Also among the senior citizens, the retired people into the well-to-do or a high income or higher middle income group category, we are also seeing the rise in the weekend homes. Earlier, some years back, say 20 years back, there was a big kind of popularity of weekend homes. In last few years, it had dipped. People found it difficult to visit weekend homes regularly. The maintenance problems are there. There was a dip in weekend home demand. And with COVID around us, we are seeing that demand for weekend homes again increasing. Again, the logic is weekend homes are typically outside city limits. So less density means lesser chance of contracting COVID virus and more secluded kind of environment, which adds to the safety. So weekend homes are getting more and more popular. Also, what we are seeing, the fourth change in residential is a demand for township-based houses or gated community-based houses, which is again a function of safety and security. which means that the people movement is controlled. You can enforce hygienic conditions, you can enforce protocols and systems. So every visitor could be monitored, could be made go through a certain ritual of cleaning, sanitizing, whatever temperature measurement, etc. Gated townships and communities allow you to manage the entire process well. So people are choosing townships over standalone buildings. A point which is quite closely linked with the students that I'm interacting with, the young population, young minds, the millennials, they have started buying houses again. What we had seen was over the last few years, young people, millennials especially, who have started their careers, believed rightly that staying on rented houses make a lot of sense, because you don't have to block large capital into your property. With rented houses, you have the flexibility. When you move jobs, when you move cities, you can quickly make that transition. And you don't have to really worry about the furniture, the society maintenance, all that. Most young people, especially while into the early stages of their career, chose to live on rented accommodation. Also, it made sense because the yields that one gets on residential apartments, if they were to buy, are merely 2-3%, much less than even the fixed deposit rates. Instead of blocking that capital into a house, you can invest that capital and earn a much better return. That's the financial logic also behind staying in rented accommodation. So that was the trend. But now with COVID, more and more millennials are looking beyond the obvious kind of reasons of financial prudence, etc. And house is, or a home is treated like a security, like a psychological need as well. Only the financial influence in the decision making has given way to psychological points also. So we are seeing more millennials buying a house. What we have also seen is the buyers, most of them are salaried households. It could be individuals, it could be multiple members, basically both partners, husband and wife, buying houses, because there is less volatility in terms of the income patterns in salaried people than self-employed. The last 3-4 months, we have seen quite a few ups and downs in self-employed people's incomes. But for salaried people, yes, people have taken pay cuts. Some people, unfortunately, have lost jobs. But overall, generally speaking, there has been a better certainty, more certainty of incomes for salaried people. So the composition of home buyers has become a lot more concentrated on the salaried people. Also, what we have seen is many people, many Indians, NRIs, who are working abroad, especially in the Gulf countries, have returned to India, because COVID has impacted the entire world. And we have seen many NRIs returning into India, and when they are returning, they are buying apartments or houses. So in a way, it has helped the residential demand in India. The returning NRIs are buying houses. Two more points about the residential observations. One is a very clear preference of ready-to-move-in houses. So people don't want to take any risk. They want to buy houses which are ready for moving in, or which will be delivered in a short period of time, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months kind of a time horizon. They are buying those properties a lot more rather than buying under construction projects. Some of you might be aware that in the last few months or maybe a couple of years, there was a lot of unsold inventory lying in the market. The buildings were constructed, but the developers were not able to sell. Those apartments are getting sold pretty quickly. So that's one more impact COVID had done. Luxury projects, the high-end projects are again finding buyers. That was a very badly hit segment in luxury housing. That has started moving again because the wealthy, those who can afford, are moving that money to purchase bigger houses. So a much needed kind of momentum in luxury housing, which was literally standstill pre-COVID, that has helped the luxury housing segment. And the biggest, I think, effect now of COVID, and by now I mean since say mid-August onwards, now the customer positivity is back. I think now as people, as citizens, we are pretty much at a stage where we know what's happening around. There is more certainty, more confidence in us. There is a much better recovery rate for COVID infected people. The mortality rate is very low, under 2%. The doctors, the medical infrastructure is quite geared up to treat the cases, and by now we have a lot more certainty about what's happening with our jobs, what's happening with the overall activities, how they are going to pan out. So those different kind of stages of opening up, step by step, have helped in improving the confidence and the customer sentiment. I think we are now more or less in tune with the new way of working. And you mentioned in your opening kind of remark, as well as the note that you have circulated to students, the new normal, so to speak, those terms that you have used. So most of us are now by and large comfortable of, or would not say comfortable, but we have accepted the new way of doing things. So the consumer sentiment is back. Which is a very good thing to happen, because real estate, housing, residential property purchases, a lot is driven by sentiments. So unless the sentiment turns positive, we will not see enough traction. So that's something which has happened. So we are seeing more people, more families doing site visits, inspections, applying for home loans. Home loan rates are now quite low, close to 7% or thereabouts. The residential prices have not moved much. The affordability is there. So overall, I think after the first 3 months, which was a period for all of us. Just onwards, I think we are pretty much in the know of things. So sentiment has really come back. So those were my observations about what's happening in the housing space, or the residential space since the COVID pandemic has hit us. So Samir, we can either have questions on the residential sector now, or I can share my views on office and retail, and then at the end we can have questions. I'm fine either ways.
Yeah, that should be fine, sir. That should be fine.
Yes. So we will complete everything first.
Yeah, we can keep, actually, we have kept the question and answer session at the end of the session. We have collected some questions. Also, parallelly, we will give some time to students as well to send the questions on the chat box. So we can use that as well.
Perfect. So I'll quickly cover the office and retail malls section and try to leave as much time as possible for the Q&A.
Yes, better.
Yeah. So in offices, I think everybody is aware and is doing this work from home, and that's a big topic for last 6 months. Big companies, especially the IT companies, announced that they will now make work from home as the new norm. TCS, for example, had announced 75% of their workforce will now work from home. It was a big announcement, and I think that was a kind of a shock to so many of us, especially in the real estate industry. What will happen if people start working from home, and then would there be any requirement of offices at all? But I think over the last few months, we have all realized that work from home is not really that easy or glamorous as we may think. And why is so that there are certain specific India-related factors doing that. For example, our Indian household size is 4.6. That means we have 4.5 members, 4 or 5 family members on an average per household. So it's very difficult to manage with those 4 people day-to-day for days to get that work from home. So that average household size is first factor. Also, on an average, our houses in India are smaller than some of the other countries, especially the developed world. The average household size, for example, in Australia is 2,300 square feet. In Canada, it is 2,000 square feet. UK, it's about 800 square feet. In India, the average house size in cities is 500 square feet. So in a 500 square foot, typically you have 3 rooms, a hall, a kitchen, and 1 bedroom. It's very difficult to fit in this workplace for a sustained or a very prolonged use. As a compromise, we all have done that. We have been working from home for long enough. But at the end of the day, it turns out to be a compromise, not really an ideal solution for most of us. Leave those who can afford 2, 3, 4 BHK, where they can make 1 bedroom into an office and do. But most of us in India find that a big challenge. Third challenge, I think, of working from home is our IT infrastructure, our ability to provide a very seamless, very strong service in terms of data service, telecommunication, and when everybody is working from home, the data usage, the IT infrastructure use has gone up significantly, and our infrastructure, IT telecommunication infrastructure, has not been able to cope up with that. All of us, there would be enough moments of frustration. The call drops, the audio quality deteriorates, the visuals hang up. So unless we can improve our telecommunication and IT infrastructure significantly, working from home is not going to be that much happy experience. Also, some challenges also. So while there are some good points about working from home, from an employee perspective as well as from a corporate perspective, as an employee, you would save a lot of time and energy of traveling. And I think all of us know that traveling, our daily traveling from home to office and back is not easy. It's time consuming, it's stressful. You take hours really to reach, and it could be in a very challenging conditions, like Mumbai's local trains, for example, or any city's public transport system is not that great. So that time and energy is certainly saved, which is a big plus point. And with that, the cost also is saved. And then one can have little bit of flexibility in terms of timings. So it's not a 9 to 5 kind of thing. So you can log in early, you can log out early, you can take breaks in between, you can have a kind of afternoons off and work on late evenings. That kind of flexibility many corporates are giving. So that's the plus side of it. From a corporate perspective, it saves on their office costs. So they save on rents, they save on electricity, because AC takes a lot of consumption in offices. They can make huge savings out there. They can reduce their admin staff, their facilities management staff. So there are clear benefits. Yes, nobody is denying those benefits. But at the same time, on the flip side, you have some challenges also from a corporate perspective. So corporates are finding that engagement between employees missing. Ideation, exchange of ideas, teamwork, communication. It's not happening when people are working from home. There are natural limitations to that. So the kind of assumption that productivity increases from people working from home does not necessarily mean it always increases. So at times it could be good. At times it could be it could increase, but there will be several days or occasions when productivity dips also. So that inconsistency in productivity is a big challenge for corporates. Also, corporates feel that there isn't enough bonding or that affinity towards the company when people are working from home. So corporates are also thinking again whether to go to that work from home in a big way that they had anticipated, or do it in a controlled way. I think they will do in a controlled way. There are benefits of working from home. They will continue with working from home, but I think they will have a certain number of staff allowed, or they will have some kind of solutions or systems worked out so that it happens in a controlled way. Also, I think from an employee perspective, while he or she will save on commute time, energy, and all that, I think the biggest disadvantage has been the blurring borderline between work time and personal time. I think while working from home, most of us, if not all, have suffered from this. I don't know what's your experience as students, whether you are also experiencing the same. Earlier there was a distinction between work hours and personal time. It would get here and there extended. That was okay, an hour here or there, that was fine. But working from home has completely disturbed that kind of work time and personal time balance, and that's a big disadvantage, which eventually leads to fatigue and drop in productivity. So I don't think working from home is going to be there big time. It's going to be there for sure, but it will be there in a controlled way. So that way, from a real estate perspective, developers should not worry about whether corporates will stop renting offices or not. They will continue renting offices. So not much of an impact on office space. But the biggest impact that we have seen in real estate is on retail sector, which is those shopping malls. They were the first ones to get closed down, and they are the last ones to get opened up. Cinema halls, food courts, malls, those were the places that you and I social gatherings, family functions, going to malls was very common, and it was a joyous activity for us. But because shopping malls have been closed down, there is a lot of business loss that has happened. Shops and retail brands have suffered a lot of significant losses. Mall owners have suffered losses because the shops are closed, they're not getting the rent, and they have taken loans which they are not able to repay. So malls have been suffering, but now you're seeing in stages, different state governments are now allowing malls to start functioning again. But I think it will be still some more time before they attain that previous glory of the happening places, so to speak. Because even if when the cinema halls start, they will have maybe social distancing norms. Say every alternate seat has to be left vacant, things like those. Even in malls, there might be controls for number of people you let in for a certain period until the vaccine is found, etc. So retail is something which has suffered the most, and which is going to take the longest to really recover. So unfortunately, that side of real estate has really hit badly by COVID. So those were my observations about residential, retail, and office. And Samir, I would then love to have the questions. We have about 20 minutes. So we can have your questions, both which you have already noted down, and also the ones which you want to ask in future.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we have some questions here, and then we will go to the chat section. By then, all the participants, by the time we answer the collected questions, you still have time to jot down your questions in the chat box. Okay. So don't worry. While my friend, my mentor, my guide, Mr. Ashutosh is here, your questions will be answered. So, so we have a question from students end first, and then we have some questions from the industry end. So some questions from the student end is while establishing a brand, there are brands which are already connected with people like Godrej or Tata, let's say. So how do you keep values over revenue, or let's say trust or integrity? So your take on guiding students on who are aspiring to make their firm bigger, or let's say they are following the same footpath of those who are already big in the segment. So your take on how keep how a brand can keep values over revenue and trust and integrity. That's
So it's so glad to have this as the opening question, because if you can see behind me below ANAROCK,
yes.
our
I just
value.
noticed.
So yeah, and we do firmly believe as an individual and we as a firm that it is values that create the value. The numerical value, the revenue, the profits will automatically come if you care and maintain the higher values. And higher values are trust, ethics, giving respect to others, transparency. All those are really the driving forces of what success you achieve in any business. And that's why you will see Tata's, Godrej, all those who have trust and brand name. It is because of the higher values that they have practiced. And so higher values, brands are made by values which don't change in change of circumstances. So ethics won't change. It's not that in a good market condition I follow ethics, and in a bad market conditions I don't follow ethics. Those are beyond times, beyond situations. So I think that's precisely what big brands have demonstrated, that once you follow values, all other things fall in place automatically. And in tough times, people will support your brand if you have followed values. So that's why even in real estate space, a Tata Housing or a Godrej Properties is finding much better response from buyers. They are able to sell quicker. They don't have to spend on marketing as much. And people are coming from on their own to them to buy. It's very important for every individual, irrespective whether that person is a student or a professional or an entrepreneur or a trader, to invest into those higher values and keep following those, and the lesser values, lesser in terms of that hierarchy, which is say money, profits, etc., will fall in place on their own.
Okay, sir. Uh, the next question is, what's your supporting words for students who have just started their education into construction and management, or let's say anyone who is aspiring to be a civil engineer or into construction and management, and they are in their, let's say, initial years of graduation. They were not completed, but in between there's this black swan event like pandemic, which has come and everything is upside down. So for them, it's very tough time to believe that things will be fine. And I think one of the questions is also related to this, that I think Mr. Tejas Ahir has asked. No, I think it's Mr. Aditya Dhamle Patil. How far is it going to take for real estate sector to revive completely? So I
Yeah.
think it's the one and the same question. So
Yeah, I think there are two sides to it. One is construction. Construction is much bigger than real estate. So construction also includes road building, irrigation canals. You have the civil constructions from the government side, for example, say government offices, hospitals, etc. Real estate is one part of construction sector. Also construction includes people who build their own houses, especially in smaller cities, district headquarters. You will see people don't go to developers and say and buy houses. They build their own houses, which gets covered in construction, not in real estate. For a country like India, with such a huge population, that what kind of urbanization we are seeing happening, young demography, growing economy, I think construction as a profession and as a sector, we have so much really to build. The urban house shortage itself is about 10 million, which is 1 crore of houses. It's a backlog that we have to construct. And every year that backlog is getting more and more. The kind of urbanization we are seeing happening. Look at what kind of highways we are building. Every day we are building certain number of kilometers. The public infrastructure we are building, hospitals, nursing homes, schools. I think construction as a profession, I think we can train every second student into construction or civil engineering or an architecture, and still will be falling short of kind of expertise that we need. That kind of mammoth scale we have to keep constructing. Real estate, which is one part of construction, will have its own ups and downs like any business. Every business can't keep growing forever. There are highs and lows. It's business cycles. Every business has to go through it, and real estate will emerge stronger in next 1 to 2 years time. And so in an overall career of anybody, which is say 30 years on an average, let's say, in 30 years, every person will see 5 or 6 business cycles. So it's okay if by the time you graduate and you are into a kind of a down cycle, that situation will stay only for some months. So you will have those peaks, you will have those kind of valleys or troughs, but in your career you are going to see 4, 5, 6 of those after a certain time. So no need to worry actually. In the overall scheme of things, this is just temporal. All you need to show is a little bit of patience, matter of few months, and the sector is back.
Yes, I second that, because whatever damage has to be happen, it has already been done. I think from here onwards, it's everything is going to go up, I guess. So
Absolutely, I think the first 3 months were really the challenging time. April, May, June. We were trying to figure out what's going to happen. The world was trying to figure it out. Now we have much better health infrastructure, health professionals. The vaccine is in advanced stages. So as far as treating or defeating COVID is concerned, we are almost there. I think in terms of economy, we are already seeing the worst behind us. We are seeing our economy, the GDP, the GST collections. If you see, the collections have been very promising for October. We are almost at 70-75% of pre-COVID levels in terms of business, GST, all that. So I think the worst is behind us.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Mr. Jay Kannau. He is asking that as Finance Minister announced 20 lakh crore package for MSMEs and to boost the construction, to boost the economy, is there any scope or is there any reflux in construction industry with that type of investment? Or let's say it is kind of a help from the government which we had received. So how it is affecting the end user or the end stage of the economic people, how it is affecting from top hierarchy to the bottom hierarchy?
See, it is finding a reflection. See, there are a few things that you and I can see directly, and there will be other things which will not see ourselves, but which is evident that things are moving. So, for example, construction sites around us, you and I can see that work has started again. Look at April, May, June. Those sites were deserted. Migrant workers have gone to their respective native places. They have started coming back. The construction activity has started happening. With government's package, the loans have been started getting disbursed once again. So construction funding has started again, which means that the contractors are getting their installments from the developers, which means they are able to pay to the laborers, which means the laborers there is reason for laborers to come back to construction sites. So we are seeing construction started again. Now this is something that you and I can see, but you and I will not see the allied sectors associated with it. For example, somebody is making doors, somebody is making nuts and bolts, or somebody is making window frames, somebody is making glass, somebody is making tiles. So there are so many industries associated with it. Unless you go to that manufacturing place, you will not see that things are getting made, but you will see transportation happening. So you are seeing trucks loading, unloading stuff, that they're getting the material in, cement, steel is getting transported, so which are signs that the package is helping. And irrespective of package, the business or the economy has to come back. You can't stay without doing nothing for such a long period, right? So you have to take some risk, which we are taking as a society, and we are again kind of engaged or getting involved into what we were doing pre-COVID. So activity has started again.
Okay, sir. We have the next question from Mr. Tejas, that construction cost for a building has increased or it is not increased due to the changes regarding availability. And I think not just the construction cost, it should I should specifically divide this into material and labor right now in this pandemic. So because skilled labor cost has gone upfront, and construction cost, I don't think so it is much affected. But still, yeah. So there's a question is the entire total construction cost has been affected or no because of the prices in the pandemic?
Yeah, so Samir, I think here we have to have two viewpoints or two horizons. One is short term, immediate for next few months, and one is long term. And what impact COVID pandemic has done on short term and long term. So short term, I would say labor cost has gone up because we simply didn't have labor available. Labor had gone to their relative places, so one has to bring them back. Also, there are added costs in terms of providing them the health and hygiene facilities. The insurance premiums have gone up. One needs to insure now against COVID situation also. So labor cost has gone up. But I think over next few months, it will get stabilized, because what happens is when a certain hundreds of labor start coming from their native to the big cities, they are in touch with their villages. So they keep informing the people back home in villages, hey, we are back, work has started, we are getting our wages. They are taking care by insuring us or whatever. Our salary has gone up, our daily wage has gone up. So that induces the people who are still in the villages to start coming to cities again. And it's a demand supply play. So when more laborers start coming in, the rates will get stabilized. Till the time labor rates will be high. But for material cost, I don't think there is any significant change. Earlier, it was the transportation cost which was high, because transportation was not happening, and that was simply because we didn't have enough truck drivers or cleaners to transport. But now transport cost also has stabilized. So there was a period in which construction cost went up because both labor and transportation cost was high. But I think transportation cost has stabilized. Labor cost is still high, which will get stabilized over the next few months.
Okay, sir. We have one more question, that is, what is force majeure, that is force majeure, unexpected circumstances? Mr. Jay, you have answered yourself. Force majeure is unexpected circumstances. And how does it work in the Indian real estate sector? I think we were not expecting corona kind of a pandemic where after a month or so, big giants like Reliance Smart, they started to claim the clause of force majeure, and slowly commercial rental business started to fall off. So I think we can make this question more interesting by how force majeure has been evolved in this pandemic. And
yes,
it was new. It was new for everyone. It was new for everyone. Yeah. So I think, sir, anything you would like to shed light on force majeure clause, where commercial sector has been, hampered very drastically?
Yeah, it has. So also, Samir, what we have seen is, and again, I'll take your attention back to how you build brands and how you build trust and a positive image into the market. See, yes, your contracts, the way they are drafted, allow you to make use of force majeure and say, hey, we are shutting the shop, or we are vacating the big office space that we have got, and we are packing. That's fine, and one is fully entitled to do that, because the market situation is such. Pandemic has really impacted. It's a genuine case, and force majeure clause is built into the contract. So legally also you are safe. You can exercise that right. Some have exercised that right, but some others have chosen not to exercise it, which means that they are cultivating relationships with the other party. So if a particular retail brand has exercised force majeure, what they are doing, they are saving their immediate cost. Fine, I think for them that could be more important goal, that for next 3 or 6 months, if I don't exit from a particular shop or a mall or an office, I simply have no money to pay my salaries, so it is all about cash flow management. So I need my money with me for next 6 months, and hence I have to exit. So I'm exercising that force majeure clause. Whereas some other brands or companies, corporates, have taken a call of negotiating with landlords and not exercise this force majeure, saying, hey, it's a period where I need to help you, you need to help me, let's sit together, let's see what can be done. I can enforce force majeure, but I really don't want to. But you help me save some of my outgoes. So then they have sat together, they have said, okay, I will give you 2-3 months of rent free. I will not charge you the rent. Don't leave. Your office or your shop is not working. It's not open. 3 months I will not take rent, or I will not charge you common area maintenance, or pay me my rent with a 3 months lag. So there are different ways of one can negotiate. With that, what has happened is the short-term objective is met. So for example, the occupier has not saves on the immediate outgoings. The relationship is maintained. So a long term, so I'm sure when the lease is to be renewed, the landlord is going to be in a different frame of mind with this guy. And that's how the long-term relationships are done, the brand is built. So if somebody is leaving today, next time the landlord is going to view the fresh agreement differently. You say, hey, when time came, you left, you only cared for yourself, you didn't care for me. So I'm going to build in certain clauses of some penalties if you leave, something like that. So yes, force majeure is something that allows you to kind of leave suddenly and try to take care of yourself. But good brands or people who think long term will exercise that only when they are sure that nothing else is going to work. It's not the first step they take, it is the last step that they take.
Yes, so I personally had come across some parties who had come to terms that whatever the number of months the rent has not been paid, you pay it, but you pay it when the economy is revived and things are in place. They are bargaining on 50%, pay 50%, but pay 10% every month. So such kind
Correct.
of things they are coming to terms. We have another question that if there are four options given and you have been asked where more of funds are moving in construction industry in Indian market. So the options are commercial real estate, warehousing and logistics, residential, public-private partnership infrastructure. Where more of funds are moving in, the options are four. So we want from your end. Yeah.
That's a googly, but I think I've seen how it is spinning. So my answer to this is there are regular and improved fund flow in all four, and I'll tell you why. The reason or objective with which funds are put is different in all four. See, for example, you mentioned commercial. Commercial is typically secured income-based theory, that hey, there is an office building which is let out, I earn a certain regular income, so there is assurance of certain income with which I will invest or I will buy, and I will earn some annuity. For that purpose, typically office buildings or commercial investments are done, and funds have been there regularly. It has improved. Two REITs are listed. You are aware of REITs, Embassy Office Park and now Mindspace, and more REITs will get listed. So no problems of funding on commercial side. Industrial warehousing, that's the emerging sector in India. So there, the objective is to get high returns. So the investment theory is different. So funds going into logistics is because it's a sunrise sector. The prices, it's going to grow exponentially. So I invest early and I make high returns. So it's high risk, high return kind of philosophy. But I think with pandemic, the risk has come down because more online, more warehousing distribution, the Amazons, Flipkarts of the world need more space. So from that perspective, funds in logistics warehouses have also gone up. In residential, funds have gone up because many projects were stuck for the last mile funding. 80-90% project is ready, but the developer has run out of money. He needs to complete it. We know that people are buying completed apartments. So investing or funding those projects, funds are doing that. So from that objective, residential funding also has been fairly secured. The fourth one, which one was the fourth one, Samir?
Public-private partnership infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure is big time. I think this government has done so many divestments and PPP. Almost every single project, public infrastructure project that we are seeing is a PPP. So we have highway building, we have modernization of airports. Now railway stations are getting redeveloped and modernized. Bus terminuses, all the public sector companies are divesting their real estate. Metros are coming up in every city. In Pune, the metro construction is happening. So public-private partnership is indeed a government-driven thing, and this government has been consistent in following the PPP route. So more funds are coming in there as well. So all four, it's not that in one sector one is getting more funds. All four are getting funds, and they are getting funds because the rationale behind investing into these four categories is different.
Okay, sir. So as you mentioned REITs,
Yeah.
as you mentioned REITs last year, so we thought, demonetization happened, RERA has come, and so we thought that REITs is here, so things will be, good from here. And then pandemic had started. So I mean, it was a good time to start REITs, but I don't know how, the small, people who had, small hopes started to, look for REITs. They rather than they don't have power to purchase big properties, commercial properties, so they were thinking to go into REITs or invest into REITs. But those who had hopes, who had just started to invest, but then this pandemic had come where commercial is drastically affected. So for them, what do you think about this entire scenario?
Yeah, so Samir, I'll treat this as the last question of the session because we will run out of time after that. But I'll answer this question. So, see, any investment to give you good returns has to be over a certain period of time. If it is a real short-term investment, it's not an investment; it's speculation. It's more like betting. Now, so my 2 cents on this, my thoughts here are: REITs are a great investment instrument. It allows you to invest into real estate even with a small sum or amount. You should stay invested for at least a year or two. I think that's a very minimum reasonable time that you should stay invested. So even if today commercial is not doing that great, in 1 or 2 years, it's going to start performing a lot better. So anybody who thinks of investing on a days or weeks basis, they would rather play into the stock market only, not as investment into REITs or any other instrument. So keep that in mind, that there has to be a reasonable period of investment horizon. Only after that, you will play out a good return game. So REITs, I would still say it's a great instrument for us to invest. Don't reduce your faith in it. And in fact, it's a good time to enter into REITs. If REIT unit price is low, why not purchase more REITs? And because in 2 years, we know that this work from home, more and more kind of rationalization is happening. People are realizing the challenges from work from home. People are going back to offices. Corporates are going back to offices. So it's a good time, in fact, to buy more REITs.
One last question. Out of these demands, out of these options, which has the maximum demand right now or increasing? New homes, rented homes, or resale property? Out of these three, yes.
I would say first and third are part of the same coin. Say either it's owned or resale, the purchaser is buying, the purchaser's objective is the same, that I want my own house. Whether I buy a new house or a resale house, that's, yes, there is a difference, but as a buyer, my objective is the same. So I would say that buying houses is more than renting house now. It's a case basis, that whether I get a good resale home or whether I get a good new home, you can't really generalize that. But buying home is now finding more kind of people rather than renting home.
Okay, sir. I'll just give a minute to our director, Mr. Anirudh Dubal. Unfortunately, at the start of the session, he was not able to join, but he is along with us. Mr. Anirudh Dubal, are you there?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm audible?
Yeah, very
Yes,
much.
sir, yes.
Hello, sir. So thank you very much, Ashutosh sir, because I listen your lecture from the mid of the your lecture, but I know you groom the student very well, because we have seen the micro effect of COVID-19 also. So you took a time for my student, and they are grooming like a friend. So thank you very much for spending your time, our valuable time for us. So like to share our thoughts also while the pandemic situation is over. So we'll share our thoughts also, and we would like to interact with you in personal touch. Thank you very much, sir.
Most welcome, and enjoyed my session, and thank you both to organizing this, inviting me, and will be happy to having a continued kind of association with you in future as well. So feel free to reach out.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I think we have covered all our questions somewhat, but thank you, sir. We appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everyone who has joined this session. And if you have not visited our website, please go and visit www.sspu.ac.in. And thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you in the next webinar. Thank you, Ashutosh ji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay positive.
Yeah. Thank you.